My name is Roya. I'm 29 now, but for as long as I can remember, I've been the odd one out in my family. We come from a long line of businessmen. My grandfather built a textile empire. My father and uncles expanded it, and the expectation was that the next generation would take over. But me? I wasn't the polished, obedient daughter they wanted. I was stubborn, creative, and, according to my father, too emotional to ever run a business. While my brothers were taken on factory tours and taught about contracts, I was told to focus on softer things, languages, manners, maybe a safe job as a teacher. I didn't resent learning, but I resented the box they shoved me into. Growing up, family dinners were filled with talk about profits, markets, and expansion. I'd try to contribute, ask questions, throw out ideas, but my father would cut me down with a laugh. Leave this to the men, Roya. The sting never faded, even when I pretended it didn't bother me. As I grew older, the gap between me and the family widened. My cousins joined the company after college, wearing tailored suits and boasting about overseas trips. I started my own handmade jewelry stall at a local market. I can still hear my uncle's laughter when he saw me one Saturday. "Look at Roya, playing shopkeeper. How cute," he sneered, pulling out his wallet to hand me a $50 bill like I was a beggar. I refused it, cheeks burning, but he winked at the family later that evening. "Don't worry, I supported her little hobby." They all laughed. Even my father chuckled, shaking his head, saying, "She'll grow out of this nonsense." That was the thing, they never took me seriously. Every time I tried to prove myself, their words grew heavier, but instead of breaking me, their mockery hardened me. I started pouring everything into my small business, working until my fingers bled stringing beads, teaching myself e-commerce, building a brand from scratch. They thought they'd humiliated me. What they didn't know was that humiliation is the best fuel. The breaking point came during a New Year's dinner. I had finally rented a tiny shop space, my proudest achievement, and mentioned it at the table. Before I could even finish, my cousin snorted. "So, what? You'll sell trinkets to tourists? How adorable." My father cut in, his voice cold. "Roya, stop embarrassing yourself. You'll never make real money with this nonsense. When you're ready to be serious, we'll find you a husband or maybe a desk job at the company's admin department." The table erupted in laughter, except my mother, who sat silent, her eyes full of apology she couldn't speak aloud. I left that night shaking, humiliated but more determined than ever. That was the night I swore I would never accept their scraps. I would succeed on my own terms even if it killed me. The next few years were hell, but they were also transformative. I poured myself into my work, late nights designing new pieces, early mornings shipping orders, weekends at markets. Slowly, my jewelry gained traction online. Influencers picked it up, orders skyrocketed, and before I knew it, I was hiring staff. My little hobby turned into a full-fledged company with multiple product lines. Meanwhile, the family business was struggling. They refused to modernize, clung to outdated strategies, and whispered arguments started to leak out. At weddings and parties, I began hearing murmurs about cash flow issues and disagreements among the board. I stayed silent, smiling politely, hiding the storm building inside me. Then came the day that changed everything. I got an email from a broker about an acquisition opportunity. My jaw dropped when I saw the details. The family company, the empire my grandfather built, was quietly looking for buyers. They'd masked it as seeking strategic partnerships, but I knew desperation when I saw it. I couldn't believe it. After decades of mocking me, after dismissing me as nothing more than a silly girl with a craft table, they were putting the crown jewel up for sale. My hands shook as I read the numbers, but when I saw my own financials side by side, a realization hit me like lightning. I could afford this, not alone, but with the right investors who trusted me. I could pull it off. I didn't tell anyone, not even my mom. 4 months, I worked in silence, negotiating, leveraging every relationship I'd built, and showing investors my vision for transforming the outdated company. I built a pitch deck that sparkled with possibility: new markets, new branding, sustainability, online platforms. My small business had grown into a multimillion-dollar brand, and investors who once ignored me now wanted in. Finally, after weeks of sleepless nights and endless meetings, I had what I needed. The deal went through faster than even I expected. One signature, And the company that had defined my family for generations, the same company they mocked me for being excluded from, belonged to me. The day I revealed it was surreal. The boardroom was full. My father and uncles in their usual suits, my cousins tapping away on their phones. When I walked in, there was a ripple of confusion. My father frowned. "Roya, this isn't a place for you." I slid the signed documents onto the table, my voice steady. "Actually, it is. I'm the new majority shareholder." Silence. Pure, stunned silence. My uncle's pen dropped. My cousin's jaw fell open, and my father's face drained of all color. He sputtered, "This is impossible." I leaned back, letting every second of their disbelief sink in. It's not only possible, it's done. The aftermath was chaos. Some of my cousins stormed out, muttering about betrayal. My father sat slumped in his chair, unable to meet my eyes. For years, he had told me I would never belong in this world, and now the world belonged to me. I thought I'd feel nothing but triumph, but as I looked at his broken expression, I felt something unexpected: sorrow. He had pushed me away, mocked me, dismissed me, and now he had to live with the consequences. But beneath the sorrow was steel. This was the price of underestimating me. I rebuilt the company with my team, modernizing, innovating, and breathing new life into a business that had been dying under their arrogance. The employees, who had long suffered under outdated leadership, welcomed the change. I didn't run it like a tyrant. I ran it with the empathy of someone who had been laughed at, dismissed, underestimated. And every day, as I walked through those halls, I reminded myself that I wasn't here because of revenge. I was here because I refused to give up. The night after I signed the papers, I sat alone in the office that had once belonged to my father. The walls were lined with heavy oak shelves stacked with dusty binders and forgotten trophies, relics of an empire he believed would always belong to him and his sons. The leather chair squeaked as I leaned back, staring at the city lights through the glass wall. I should have been elated. After all, I had achieved the impossible. I had gone from the girl they mocked for selling jewelry at a street stall to the woman who now owned the company that carried my grandfather's name. And yet, what washed over me wasn't triumph alone, it was something deeper, something heavier. Revenge had been my fuel for years. Every insult, every laugh, every "you'll never make it" had burned inside me like fire, pushing me through sleepless nights, failures, risks, and endless work. But sitting there in that chair, I realized revenge was only the spark. What carried me here was resilience, vision, and the refusal to give up even when the world told me I was worthless. The sweetness of revenge is sharp and fleeting, but the satisfaction of growth, the kind that belongs to you alone, lingers far longer. When I walked through the factory floor the next morning, workers looked at me with cautious curiosity. They had seen me at family events before, probably dismissed me just like the rest of my relatives did. But this time, I wasn't the niece or the daughter on the sidelines. I was their boss, and I knew in that moment I had a choice. I could run this company the way my father and uncles had, with arrogance and disdain, or I could build something new, something better. I smiled at them, asked about their work, listened in a way leadership never had, and when I saw the spark of relief in their eyes, I knew the true victory wasn't humiliating my family, it was transforming the legacy into something human again. Later, my mom visited my office. She walked slowly, her fingers tracing the polished desk, her eyes brimming with tears. She tried to blink away. "Roya," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I always knew you had this in you, but I never thought I'd see the day." I took her hand, and in that simple moment, everything became clear. I hadn't done this just for me. I had done it for her too, for every time she sat silently at dinners while they laughed at me, for every night she comforted me when I came home humiliated, for every sacrifice she made to give me a chance. The house, the office, the company, these were symbols, but the real victory was giving her pride, lifting that quiet sorrow from her eyes. In the weeks that followed, I noticed how quickly the shock among my family turned into resentment. Some cousins tried to undermine me, whispering that I didn't deserve the company. My father refused to attend meetings, too ashamed to face me, and yet, none of it pierced me anymore. Their opinions had lost all power. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval or trying to prove them wrong. I was simply living my truth. That realization was liberating in a way no material success could ever be. I often reflect on the irony. They mocked me for starting small, for getting my hands dirty, for building slowly. Yet it was that very humility, that willingness to grind at the bottom, that made me strong enough to reach the top. They inherited power but never understood how to sustain it. I had to fight for mine, and because of that, I'll never take it for granted. And that's where the lesson lies. Sometimes the very things people laugh at are the seeds of your greatest triumphs. Do I regret taking over the family company? No, but I've stopped seeing it as revenge. Revenge was the doorway that got me here, but purpose is what keeps me here. And my purpose isn't to gloat or to crush them. It's to create, to build, to prove that empathy and innovation are more powerful than arrogance and tradition. I run this company not as their daughter or niece but as a leader who understands what it means to be underestimated. If I could speak directly to anyone out there who's ever been mocked for dreaming too small, here's what I'd say: let them laugh, let them sneer, let them call your dreams hobbies, let them dismiss your passion as nonsense. Their laughter is only noise. It doesn't define you, it doesn't limit you, and it certainly doesn't determine what you're capable of. If anything, let it fuel you. Let every cutting remark become another brick in the foundation of what you're building. Because one day, when you stand in the place they swore you'd never reach, you'll realize you were never trying to prove them wrong, you were proving yourself right. So yes, I bought the company they said I would never touch, but the true victory wasn't in owning it. The true victory was in becoming someone who no longer needs their validation. The best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's freedom. Freedom to live fully, to create boldly, to stand tall without needing anyone's permission. And when you finally taste that freedom, you'll understand why no insult, no humiliation, no doubt can ever touch you again.